right. Well, thank you for being on another show of Jack Hakimian Show. And I have the privilege of being here with the Faith and Freedom Coalition of South Florida. And they've been sharing a little bit about what they do and ways that we can get involved with hitting the streets, hitting the pavement, and passing out these voter guides, which I think are critical because there are a lot of people that are wondering how I should vote. And they maybe have a Catholic background or maybe a Muslim background even, or a Protestant background. But at the end of the day, their faith inspires them to be conservative about morality, but yet liberal about charity and loving people. In a way, people of faith are liberal. In a way, they're conservative. Liberal in love, generosity, but conservative in obeying God's commands as it applies to every dimension of life. So we want to encourage you who are watching this show and listening to get involved. I'm going to be taking out our discipleship group to not only go out and share the gospel to people, but also give out people these flyers, these voter guides, in order to, again, remind them how important faith is. And so we really cannot stress how important it is. So, Sarah, why is this important? I mean, I keep saying it's important, but probably those who are listening and watching right now are wondering, well, why is this important? Because I've heard a lot of people say, I'm not going to vote. I don't like Trump. I don't like Clinton. I think it's useless.
Well, I think it's more important, really, truly. It's not about Trump and it's not about Clinton. It's about our Supreme Court justice, because if we lose our Supreme Court justice, we are not going to lose it for 4 or 8 years. We're going to lose it for a lifetime. Because the possibility exists that the next president will put in a very young Supreme Court justice, and that justice will be there for a very, very long time. So we're really concerned.
Well, the liberals say that you guys are just fear-mongering. If Hillary Clinton wins, she's going to put in a justice that's going to be fair, just, and good.
Well, no, that's really not true, because what we really want is a Supreme Court justice that has the same views as Anton Scalia, who recently passed away. We want somebody who will basically be pro-life, will support the issues of pro-life, will be fair and balanced, and will be a strict constructionist. We don't want someone who's going to legislate from the bench and just make their own rules. We have already seen that at the local level with Cindy Lederman, who basically said that, okay, we want gay adoption, and you have no say whatsoever. And then that situation went to the 3rd District Court of Appeals, where basically it was no decision was made, and came back to the governor who made the decision at that time, Charlie Crist, and basically then it passed. So we want to be able to reverse the damage that was done, number one. We want to ensure that Planned Parenthood is not expanded, and that can happen in a Supreme Court decision. We want to be able to ensure that gun control is not used as a part of Supreme Court to restrict gun rights. We want to be able to ensure that all of our constitutional rights are protected as well. And I believe that those are the main reasons that we need to be able to stand. We need to be able to make a difference, and we can do this in this election. And there is very little time left to do this in our communities. By passing out this voter guide, then we're educating the public on the issues that are important to the traditional family.
Okay, good. Awesome. Well, you've heard it, folks. I mean, Sarah's passionate about this, and I think she's making a good argument about the Supreme Court for the no-Trumpers, or what do they call them, the never-Trumpers? Never-Trumper. She's basically, you're arguing that, look, this is bigger than Trump. I think he's made a commitment, and he's already written out a list of some potential Supreme Court candidates, and they're all pretty much Federalist, kind of.
Yes, that's correct.
Conservative.
The Heritage Foundation.
Okay, yeah.
And the Federalist Society.
Okay.
To select 11 justices, and these are justices on the order of Anton Scalia. They will be very conservative, and they will continue to uphold traditional family values.
Yeah, and the irony is that in the past, certain Republican presidents have put in somewhat liberal judges, or ones that weren't vetted enough, and then later, and I think Justice Anthony Kennedy's is it Anthony Kennedy? Yeah, Anthony Kennedy, and he kind of plays the game of flip-flopping. And so we need to definitely think about this, and we need to overturn Roe versus Wade, which is probably the most horrific judicial precedent ever set in the history of America. And I will submit to my black brethren, worse than slavery. Why? Because it doesn't even give the slave the opportunity to fight for their freedom. It just decimates and destroys their life. And this is one of the things I want to say, because before we wrap the show up, you know, many of my black friends will say, well, Republicans are racist and Democrats are freedom fighters, you know, much like the argument that Castro used in order to so-called liberate black Cubans. And till this day, there's never been a black Cuban in his administration. So, boom, here we go again, the liberal propaganda. But the irony is this. I mean, Frederick Douglass, Booker T. Washington, some of these great prominent men were part of the Republican Party, which was the abolitionist party, Lincoln's party, and it continues to be the abolitionist party, the party that fights against slavery and murder and injustice as God has defined dignity and value. But most of my friends will say again, the Republicans are racist and whites are the freedom fighters. But this is the irony. And again, this is not about endorsing Republican Party or this is social biblical commentary. Is the party or the person who says, I want your black babies to come into this world, and if you don't want the baby, give it up for adoption. You got organizations like here in Miami called Heartbeat of Miami, and you have different wellness and clinics all across America. Is the party or the organization that wants your babies to be born, thinks babies are a blessing, they believe in the mandate, be fruitful, multiply, or the party that has put Planned Parenthoods in almost every major inner city and urban community, right, yes, in America, and is actually keeping black and brown populations down, because 70% of abortions are done by people of Afro and Latin descent. So my question is, which party, if you do accuse them of racism, probably covertly and deceptively right in front of our eyes is trying to minimize the very population of your race? Consider that. We'll be right back. I'm going to be talking to Pedro a little bit about his passion and his views as a private citizen about this next presidential campaign. So God bless you guys.